Welcome to the Grampians Wine Podcast. I'm your host, Neil Butler. In each episode of the podcast, we speak to a representative of the Grampians winemakers or one of the wineries in the region. We'll learn about the wines, the wineries, and of course the personalities associated with one of Victoria's leading wine regions. On today's episode, we speak to Simon Fennell, the winemaker at Montara Wines, located in Ararat. Welcome to the podcast, Simon.
Thanks, Neil. Pleasure to be here.
Now, tell us a bit about your winery, where you are, and the varieties you produce.
So, Neil, Montara Wines, it was established in 1970, so we've just ticked over 50 years of production, just on the edge of Ararat. So we're about 3 kilometres from the Ararat CBD. The vineyard was established by the McRae family at that time. We grow Pinot Noir, Shiraz, Riesling, Chardonnay, Cabernet Sauvignon, Sauvignon Blanc, and a tiny bit of Merlot.
And I hear a rumour that you've got a bit of live music going on at the winery every now and again as well.
Yeah, we do, Neil. Yeah, the owners, the Stapleton family, a well-known musical family. Some folks from the generation may well be familiar with Wendy Stapleton, certainly an Australian musical legend of the day. And I think there's a thread of music that goes through the place. I dabble a little bit in the local cover band, Billy Stapleton. So she's one of our directors. She was actually a backing singer for a period with Deep Purple. So wow. There's a musical pedigree that certainly beats solidly through the Montara stable.
Outstanding. Oh, well, all the more reason to come and say good day. We'll talk a bit about that a little bit later on. So how many cases of wine do you produce every year?
I guess too, that's seasonal, Neil. We look after some export and domestic markets. Off our own estate, we produce about 120 to 150 tonnes, just depending on the season. So given that, you'd say around that 90 or 100,000 litres.
Okay, that's a lot of wine. So you're the winemaker there. Tell us what makes the Grampians wine region good for growing grapes and actually making wine.
I think that the Grampians is one of those really rare regions where the two champion varieties are Shiraz and Riesling. I think they're really, it's not that common to find those two varieties being the champions of the region. So obviously one is a red, one is a white. I think, just great diversity across the varietals as well. Even where we are at Montara, we're at the southern end of the Grampians region. So, a little cooler, a little bit more hang time for ripening. I think there's some good diversity there in the Grampians, say, compared to the northern reaches being Great Western and beyond, and the hills of Great Western. So I think that the region is diverse, yet I think those two varieties especially excel in the region.
And I think that diversity, I'm no winemaker, you clearly know more about it than I do, but there are going to be pockets where you go to, for example, the Yarra Valley, where it's pretty similar across the board because it's all pretty much in the one spot. That diversity must make the region not only a great place to make wine, but also for people to visit. What are some of the reasons people would come to the Grampians, certainly in terms of wine, but other things they might get up to?
Yeah, I think there's a multitude of things to do in the region. We have an incredible geology with the Grampians mountain range. I think some significant Indigenous and cultural experiences as well with Halls Gap and the greater Garryward or Grampians region. So I think there's so many different facets and offerings with our tourism locally that make it really appealing. I think for foodies as well, there's some great artists and producers of, say, olives, olive oil, paddock to plate meat projects, that kind of stuff, and of course the wine industry ties in really well with that. And I think complements those local food producers beautifully.
And a number of decent pubs in the region as well, as I recall from my visits up there. So a wide range of eating opportunities as well, apart from the foodie stuff, but for families that are coming to the region as well.
Yeah, indeed, and everything from a local RSL or a schnitty at a pub, some great pizza places, right up to the fine dining end at So Dunkirk with the Royal Mail, who support our local industry, considerably, and I think too, if you are dining out in the region, be it in Ararat Stall or over there in Halls Gap, you're going to find local wines in every list. So we are especially supported by local pubs, clubs, and entertainment venues, which is a really good part of being in the region as well.
I'm still reeling from the fact that you distinction between pizza and fine dining. In my mind, they're one and the same thing.
Same. I mean, let's be real. There's a time and a place for it all, and I do love it all equally.
Absolutely. So at Montara Wines, tell us about what Montara Wines is going to look like in 5 years from your perspective.
I think in 5 years, it's a good question. I think climate plays a fair part in that. The varieties we grow, how we grow them, styles change. I think, we're always looking for innovation. We're looking for freshness, and I think keeping the wines contemporary is really important. Yet, in the same breath, a nod to our tradition, our heritage, that sort of stuff. So I think that, not that you've got a foot in both camps, but I think, freshness, keeping the wines relevant, ensuring that punters are enjoying the offering, but certainly a nod to our heritage.
But by talking about contemporary, though, does that mean more varieties or styles or vintages? What do you mean by keeping the wines contemporary?
I think if I was to put it in the context of, say, now, I think from even when I started in the industry as a younger person, we've certainly gone from quite generous, rich, oaky styles of wine to now, the focus is more about a vibrancy and freshness and let's say lower alcohol, less oak. I think that's where it's at the moment. I think those wines are certainly more approachable as younger wines, and I just really think that's where it's at the moment. But in 5 years' time, who knows? It's again, I think that's about keeping it relevant and keeping your offering applicable to the time.
Absolutely. Oh, well, we also like to find out a bit about you as well as our guests. So how long have you lived and worked in the Grampians wine region?
So I came over in 2012, Neil. I'm originally from Penola, Coonawarra, just over the border in South Australia. Mm-hmm. So you can probably pick up on some of those wild South Australian pronunciations like Shiraz and
yes,
Castle and things like that.
It's quite a regular pronunciation, the Shiraz. It's very much a Shiraz in Geelong where I live.
Yeah, indeed. And I do get pulled up on it locally by my contemporaries and colleagues. It's like, oh, what did you say? But anyway, it's about 9 years that I've been in the region now. So I initially came over and took up a position with Best's at Great Western, assistant winemaker role there. And I was there for 4 years, 5 vintages, and now I've been at Montara for 5. So it's some opportunities there with Montara presented. So I thought it was a great opportunity. So to be part of a business that's well established in the region, it was a really good opportunity.
And how did you start in the wine industry? What was your first role?
I guess being in sort of Penola, Coonawarra, growing up, just by default, and ended up there after some studies in horticulture and being away at school, coming home. It was just an easy gig to fall into, doing a vintage to make some cash, doing some hand picking, that sort of stuff, some pruning in the off season, and did all of that stuff as a younger person, in the early teenage years, and I guess a curiosity and an interest sort of began at that time, and just wanted to find out a bit more about the industry, the process, I guess things progressed from there through studies and other experiences and roles. So I guess that was how it started out originally.
Yeah, okay. So we're now going to test out, this is where you have to choose your favourite child. If you're going on a road trip and you can take one case of wine with you from your winery, what do you take with you?
Yeah, it is a good question. as much as I was talking up Shiraz and Riesling before, and I love those wines from the Grampians region dearly, but we found a real niche at Montara with our Pinot Noir, and we've won some golds and a trophy in recent times. So I have a really special and dear soft spot for our single vineyard Pinot Noir. Lovely, vibrant drink. Crunchy fruit, oak just there and supporting. So, Neil, I've got to say the Pinot. I can't go past that at the moment.
And congratulations, because in some of these conversations I've had with people who work in wineries that have got lots of varieties, they go, I'm taking a mixed case. So well done you for choosing one, because you didn't want to sit on that fence.
So was it an option? Damn.
No, it wasn't. No, bad luck. Sorry. Now, you've got one of the bottles of Pinot out. What's your favourite meal to have with that bottle?
Oh, good question. I mean, the go-to dish with Pinot would traditionally be duck. Peking duck pancakes, absolutely delicious. But look, being a country boy and something that I just love dearly is oxtail. I think one of those really gelatinous, slow cooked cuts. I think you go Chinese 5-spice oxtail, slow cooked, perfect.
So you've got the meal, you've got the drink. Where are you most likely to want to have that meal? What's your favourite location to eat and drink that?
Look, I think at home, in the comfort of your own home. The safety of your own dinner table. I don't think you're going to be judged if you get too obnoxious or Skype and get too rowdy about how good you think your Pinot is that you've made. So, or the dish you've knocked out. So I think the safety of your own home with family and mates.
Well, certainly the least exotic answer, but probably the most sensible. The favourite music to have playing while you've got that meal going and that bottle going?
Oh, gee, that's a good question. Being a music fan, it's my playlist is reasonably diverse as well.
And we'll exclude Wendy Stapleton from the list, just so you don't. Yeah, she's not allowed to be your answer, just because we can't have that.
I think Wendy and the Rockets would be a great option, especially if she was over for dinner and sitting at the table. But look, I'm a big fan of a guy called John Cleary, an Englishman originally, but New Orleans soul, funk, blues. He's an incredible New Orleans piano player and look, soulful voice. Love his work. So I think I'd have to say John Cleary.
Excellent. And the meal's there, the food's there, the music's going. Who are the 3 people, living or dead, that you'd want to share that meal and wine with?
Oh, well, there you go. I'm going to have to go with John Cleary to start with, because he's a piano god. I play piano a bit myself, and I just put him on the highest pedestal. So I think John Cleary. I would have to say. Bit of a golf fan as well, and I know he fell short on many occasions, but I think Greg Norman was an absolute inspiration in the day, especially as a teenager. I thought he was, just such a great Australian and a great Australian sportsman. So I think Greg would have some great yarns to tell and be tremendous company. And third, who could I go with? I mean, I'm sure everyone says people like Nelson Mandela or someone significant from politics or something like that. But look, I'm going to go with another sportsman, and I think the Don Bradman. I'm a cricket fan. I think the Don would, if we could reincarnate the Don to sit up and have a meal with us at the table, I'm sure he'd have some amazing stories to tell.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, well, I think you've chosen wisely. And before we finish, Simon, can you please let us know where we can find you and the Cellar Door Hours, website, social media?
Sure, Neil. So Montara Wines, just 3 kilometres from the middle of Ararat, from the centre of town. We're at 76 Chalumbar Road. The Cellar Door is open Saturdays and Sundays. We have events occasionally, live music events occasionally throughout the year. So you'd probably have to check out socials and the website for that. But it's montarawines.com.au. And as well as that, Facebook, Montara Wines. There's no Twitter there, but we have an Insta account as well with Montara Wines. You'll find us there.
Excellent. Well, Simon, thanks for joining us on the Grampians Wine Podcast today.
Pleasure, Neil. Thanks so much for the chat. It's really enjoyable.
That's good fun. This has been another episode of the Grampians Wine Podcast featuring Simon Fennell from Montara Wines. You can subscribe to the podcast by visiting grampianswinepodcast.com.au. It doesn't cost you anything to subscribe, but it will give you the chance to listen to previous episodes and to be reminded whenever we publish another new episode. You can watch the video versions of the podcast by subscribing to the Grampians Wine YouTube channel. We'll be back soon with another episode. My name's Neil Butler. I look forward to your company then. Cheers.